G'day cobblers, welcome back to the bush. In this episode of Lock Your Hubs for Driving, we'll be looking at winching and how you can winch longer with a setup you already have. Now, every time I go out four-wheel driving with mates, I'll watch them, when they get stuck, pull out their winch and go to the nearest convenient tree. Whereas me, I always pull out enough winch rope that I'm onto the bottom layer. Now, some people have told me that running from the bottom layer isn't of a great advantage, and today we're either going to prove or dispel that myth. So let's get into it. So the first thing we're doing is we'll put the Zook on the hill, we'll attach the load cell to the back of the 200 series, and then we'll see exactly how much strain is on the winch rope when the Zook is sitting on the hill. So here we are on the hill, and this is a Zook on a single line pull with the load cell. We're sitting at just over 900 kilograms. So now we know exactly how much tension is in that winch rope. What we'll be doing now is we'll be winching from exactly the same spot, filling up the winch. So the first layer we're on at the moment, and we'll winch for 30 seconds, see how far we progress, and we'll check out the current draw from the winch on the multimeter, which we'll show you in a second. And then we'll be doing it from exactly the same spot on the hill on the second layer of winch rope on the spool, and then the third layer, and see if there's any difference. Let's get into that. So I've marked up with the front wheel starting for consistency between the tests, and now we'll just winch up the hill for 30 seconds. So on the winch drum, we managed to winch just over 2 meters, 2 meters and 2 centimeters. That's for the base layer on the drum. So for the first layer on the winch, the base layer, we winched this far and we drew a peak of this much current. Now we're going to put a bit more winch line on the spool onto the second layer on the winch, and we'll see if there's any difference. Again, we're going to winch for 30 seconds from exactly the same spot on the hill. Well, that's thrown me a wobbly. There's the mark for the first winch on the bottom layer, and here's the mark for the second winch on the second layer, and that's 2 meters and 16 centimeters. So we actually got a little further. So the second layer of winch line on the hill got us this far and peaked at this much current using the same amount of tension on the rope. But what about a third layer? Let's put a third layer on the winch, and we'll start again from exactly the same spot, and we'll see if that makes any difference. And here we are on the third layer, and it got even further. 2 meters and 25 centimeters in 30 seconds. So the third layer of rope on the drum got us this far and peaked at this much current. Is that where you thought it would happen? Or not perhaps? Drop a comment down in the comment section and let me know if it's progressing the way you thought it might, or perhaps it's doing something different to what you thought it would. Would this encourage you now to pull more winch rope out, get onto the base layer of the drum or not? Tell me your thoughts down in the comment section. So first up, let's have a look at the winch rope layer versus distance travelled. Now on the left hand side we have the distance here in meters, and on the bottom we have the various layers. So the first layer, right on the bottom there, we travelled 2.02 meters, and on the second layer we managed to travel 2.16 meters. Now that was an increase of 6.7%. And finally on the third layer we travelled 2.25 meters. That's an increase over our baseline of 11.4%. But that's not all. Now let's have a look at our amperage usage. And here we have it, ladies and gents, the one you've all been waiting for, no doubt. With bated breath, the winch rope layer amperage usage graph. Now on the left hand side here, we've got the current in amps from 250. But you've got to be mindful of the fact that that is the peak current we got for all three tests. It would have actually been better to measure it in amp hours, which is the usual way you measure battery usage. But unfortunately, I don't have a meter which can read hundreds of amps like a winch can pull over a period of time and give me an amp hour reading. So we're stuck with the peaks, but because we started at exactly the same point on that hill every time, and we winch for exactly the same amount of time, they are comparable, and that's what's important. Now, along the bottom, of course, we have the various tests. Starting with the bottom layer, our base layer, our control, 164.3 peak amps. Our second layer, again winching for that 30 seconds, 188.9 amps, or an increase of 15%. And our third and final layer, 229.7 amps peak, or an increase over our base, our control, of 39.8%. That's considerably more, isn't it? Okay, well this has obviously justified it for me, and I hope it's justified it for you too. So next time you're going to do recovery, don't forget, pull out all of that rope. You'll use less battery and you'll be able to winch for a longer period of time. Also, additionally, your winch actually gets more powerful effectively when you take more rope off your winch. Now I'll put up a bit of a graphic at the moment and you'll be able to see, this is the one from the winch in the car that you saw in the video, the VRS winch, and you can see the various layers. On the bottom layer, it's a 9,500 pound winch. And when we keep stacking on that rope, it eventually turns into a 6,000 pound winch at the same amperage usage. So the motto is, pull out that rope, get onto that bottom layer, leave 5 or 6 wraps of your synthetic rope on the bottom and start winching from there. Pull out that rope and then go looking for that anchor. Righto guys, thanks for joining the video. Now, if you like this video,
give it a thumbs up.
And if you didn't like the video,
give it a thumbs down twice.
Thanks guys, we'll see you in the next one. So if you've enjoyed this content, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and ring that bell icon. It's really important to us and you won't miss out on our future content. Now if you want to support the channel, by all means, consider becoming a patron on Patreon and you get things like early access to our videos on YouTube. Either way, we hope to see you out on the tracks.